Namaste and welcome to Youth TV Show. Today we are inaugurating our new think tank series, Asia World Futuristic Talk Series. We have with us Mr. Daniel CHUDY, an eminent author, lecturer and speaker from Switzerland. The topic for today's discussion is Crossing the Cultural Divide for Successful Business Around the Globe. May I request the chairperson for today's event, Mr. Rupesh Krishna Shrestha, Assistant Professor at the Kathmandu University School of Management, to open up this session.
We are going through a lot of globalizations. If you see it from the early 70s, 80s onwards, globalization has been the theme in doing trade and business all over the world. And how does cultural intelligence also fit into this scenario?
As a young boy, just obtaining the opportunities to travel and to explore, and I even had 5-6 years selling Switzerland for the Swiss National Tourist Office, so I know the trade of selling a country, even though that was B2C more than B2B. But yeah, I was just fortunate to get all these opportunities. I went to Japan for 6 years. I had no idea what Japan was all about. It was 1980, this was pre-globalization period, and you had to fly from Switzerland to Anchorage in order to get to Japan, with a stopover in Anchorage in Alaska. So it was long endurance flights, and I only knew about raw fish and actually earthquakes in Japan. These are the only two things I knew, and then it just went there. And as I was suddenly free, I was only 50 or 51. I didn't know what to do with my time. This was 2007. Funny enough, I did a trip from Moscow to Delhi that brought me through Mongolia, China, Tibet, one month in Tibet, and Bhutan, and then Kathmandu.
How have you been able to bridge this wealth of experience that you've had?
The thing is, I'm working as a journalist, but predominantly in tourism and hospitality for several trade magazines. It's again about the same thing, people, you know, players, hotel groups, destinations. It's a wonderful complement to what I do now. And then, so my newspaper sent me to England to do a study or an interview with a gentleman called Richard Lewis. He has a huge, very successful business language school, English language business school around the world, Japan and some other countries and so on. So I was there to talk about further education for business people, not for students, you know. And so the guy says to me, "Oh, come on, Daniel, blah, 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 you know, the business school, I don't have to tell you much, but do you know about cross-culture?" I said, "Cross-culture?" And I thought this was some philosophical thing, you know, that gave me a CD. And he says, "Just watch this. Go to a little office there and come back when you saw that." And I watched it. It was a 1-hour presentation of a speech he did at Deloitte & Touch in Dallas, in the US. And there the guy was, it was a 1-hour speech to management people. So like you, people with educational responsibilities, experience and so forth. And he was telling them, well, the world is different, you know, in Japan they do this, and in Switzerland they do that, and the Finns don't speak much, and the Italians use their hands. So there was an opinion leader, Richard Lewis, you can Google him, and he wrote a book, Richard, something like 15-20 years, When Cultures Collide. And it's a big, thick book like this. He gave it to me and he said, "Read it." And I just understood that you need sometimes to be on the right spot on the right moment and just grab an opportunity. But then you need also to be flexible. So that's how I got into it. This is a tool to understand and to respect, to come into different cultures, not only outside your country, but also inside you.
When you talk about cultural intelligence, is this any different than emotional intelligence, or is it similar to it? Or because the way I understand cultural intelligence is it's beyond just understanding people's religion, ethnicity, or the language, or the way they eat and the way they live their lives. It's a little bit more than that.
If I would give you a role model for cultural intelligence, I would bring an elderly hotel general manager, one guy who's been doing that for 40 years. And he's in a hotel lobby, and he sees what's happening. And he sees any sort of client coming in, upset, angry, rushed, group, noisy, family, without a reservation, with a reservation, drunk, abusive. He sees all this and he knows instantly, out of his stomach, how do I deal with this? And then he comes and he says, "Can I bring you to the bar?" or just go to your room and I'm going to solve this for you. Or he might even decide, I'm not going there, I'm going to disappear. So he just automatically feels by his stomachs what to do. But you know, today's time doesn't allow this empathy thing anymore. It needs more, and cultural intelligence is intelligence rather than emotional intelligence, which is the feeling that unfortunately we don't dare to use anymore, to be upset, to have joy, to make a mistake and say, oops, I made a mistake, to be in the wave of people's relation, even in business. And that's why there is a difference to that.
Daniel, in your experience, looking at it from the Western perspective, are there any differences in how people in Asia or in Europe or in America, are they different from cultural intelligence? Is there any global trend as to this part of the world is more culturally aware, they have more cultural intelligence, they are more sensitive towards others' culture, or is it like the similar pattern all over the world in your experience?
Very good question. You know, 20 years ago I would have said, oh, Asia is far ahead of us Westerner. Now I understand we all have our abilities and our strengths and our weaknesses. And what Westerners maybe can do better in one field, they are worse in another field. Now, I say, much more than 20 years ago, I think at the end of the day, those 200 nations plus that we are, and those 300 major ethnical groups, they all have their advantages and disadvantages. The crux is, how do I connect this in order to create successful business? And if I may add this, and that's why Nepal is as valid and as important as Switzerland, just with your abilities. And then you have to push your abilities and your strengths and the strong points that you have and bring them into the game. And I bring my game as a Swiss, and then we do business together.
How do you strategize while you are dealing with cross-cultural issues? Is it like, do you follow your counterparts' culture and be more acceptive towards their culture, or do you like even come from your point of view, from like you come from Switzerland, from your cultural background, and intervene through your cultural perspective? Which is a better strategy?
The key thing, and that's why it's sometimes difficult to explain this to an audience who is maybe 20 years old, the key thing in cross-cultural awareness or cultural intelligence, first of all, you gotta be comfortable with yourself. You gotta believe in yourself. You gotta think Switzerland, that's great. You know, and I had my doubts. Quite honestly, you know, through my years, sometimes if somebody said something negative on Switzerland, I was not even defensive because I thought it's probably right. Not, you know, but I regained my force, my validation of Switzerland. I think we're doing good. We're doing as good as we can, and I'm contributing to this. So in that sense, I'm a representative of Switzerland, and I'm proud of it, and that enables me to go to Australia or to go to Ecuador or to go to Senegal or to go to Nepal and say, who are you? What is your values? Tell me about it. I had some tours, we had many discussions. Wonderful, because I'm sure about myself. So I don't have to challenge it because I'm cool, I'm comfortable about who I am. And I think that is one of the things that, particularly in Nepal at the moment, by all means and by all forces and by all people and opinion leaders should push forward this opportunity with the constitution, maybe even after the catastrophe that you've had, to say, let's do that together, and we have a strength and we develop together, and it's good to be from Nepal. And I think that's the first step. And the second step, if I had to deal with Nepal, I have to get information, I have to get data, I have to sit down and learn. I have to ask the question, what do you want? And I'm going to tell you what I need. So this is not just the hotel director who says, yeah, I'm coming to Nepal, it's going to be easy. No, at the end of the day, we've got to sit down and you have to learn certain things about religion, about the gender issue, about status, about money, about even a little bit about political situation, constellation. Otherwise, how can I come here and enjoy myself? So there is work involved, and as a human being and as a businessman, you can't know all 200 nations. That's not possible. But at one stage in life, I have to deal with Mexico. And if that moment comes, I'm going to deal with Mexico. And probably I might start with Google and Wikipedia, that's fine. And then as this proceeds, I'm going to deal with Mexico, or I'm going to deal with South Africa. And I expect and I open up to the other side.
Wonderful, Daniel. Like, if I'd put it in a framework, it's like more about if you're visiting or you're doing business with a different culture, you first of all go out and get some knowledge about what that culture is about, do some research about it, get some cognitive learning regarding that culture. Then after that, you sensitize yourself, feel as to what that culture feels. Then only it's about time to go out and get it done. So is that the right process? Correct me if I'm wrong.
If I say I want your respect, then I have to respect you. And for that, it's not enough just to see on the street and say, hi, how are you? Oh, it's cool, etc., etc. I have to go into. And if I go into the culture, for example, of Nepal, of course there will be things that I don't like, and of course there will be things that I like. And to accept this, that's the starting point. So that process, that needs work and it needs time. Tell international business people, they fly to Asia, they land in the morning at 6 o'clock in Hong Kong or in Shanghai, and at 9 o'clock they have meetings, and I tell them, arrive one day earlier. Take your time, go out to the street, smell it, taste it, street food, whatever. Just to come in that rhythm that the next day you come into the office, you're already in that rhythm of life, you know. And that's the learning. Reserve time, and time is money, therefore invest money into the learning of different cultures.
Do you see any global similarities or differences in relation with the cultural issues when you were young, about, let's not talk about how many years back.
You can call me Thomas Cook. You can call me Thomas Cook.
Okay. So when you were growing up, were you more sensitive, or the Y generation that has grown up with internet and are connected globally with social platform, are they more sensitive to these cultural issues?
The Starbucks development, the McDonald's in Saudi Arabia, the Cheens, the whole issue of the Roger Federers around the world. You know, I tell you that I go to China or to South Africa, and they say, where are you from? And I say, I'm from Switzerland. And they say, do you play tennis? And I say, no. And they say, but Roger Federer is from Switzerland. I say, yes, but you play tennis? No. They don't understand. So I think the whole social media, the whole immediate, uncensored and unqualified flow of news of all sort of levels is not an advantage for the young kids. The truth is, it is extremely difficult. You can get so easily confused about things, and just you can imagine the picture. You find it on the website. You see over 10, 15 years a change in behavior in terms of food and fast food of the young people. Sometimes I have courses and they look at me after 20 minutes, they look at me and say, what is the guy talking about? I know that. I have a friend in New York, and I have an email and LinkedIn and Facebook, and I know exactly, I know somebody from South Africa, etc. But that's of course not quality at all. That's not deep at all. And then to tell somebody, if you're 18 or 20, dreaming about California or dreaming about going to China, that this is not the real world, is quite a difficult task.
It was mentioned that about 15 and the 16 years you were out of the country, not in Switzerland. And finally you have gone to Switzerland and settled down there, right? How did you, decide to go back to Switzerland after having so much of wide experience?
It's an excellent and very personal question. The truth is that I'm still battling with that. Yes, I have been the last 25 years living in Zurich, Switzerland. It's very comfortable there. It's very convenient. It's comfort zone par excellence. The truth is I've been battling with that. In 2008, 2009, I had a ventil. I had a chance to break out. I went to Shanghai for 2 years. But I'm battling with it, to be quite honest. And my heart is in Asia, so I'd love to move in here. Quite honestly, I battle with this.
Another thing that interests me, and I don't mean to derail the conversation, but another extension of cultural division or gaps are generational gaps, and how youth can deal with working in the global business world where we're dealing with several different generations, several different cultures. So I wanted to see if you had any insight on advice you can give youth on how to deal with the generational gap.
A wonderful question. First of all, you have a lot of multinational staff forces now in the big companies, even in Switzerland. And you know, for your information, in our country, we have 24.5% of our population is foreigners. So 1 out of 4 is a foreigner in our country. So we have school classes, and we have certain type of companies with a high percentage of foreigners of all sorts and of all life. In Switzerland, quite honestly, I think we manage well. Quite honestly, as difficult the process is, and as you see what's happening in the Balkan states and in the Mediterranean, there's big new challenges coming up to Europe and to Switzerland as well, and to Germany, who has 1 million who expects 1 million migrants and refugees. So that's gonna power forward the situation of any sort of institution or school classes or company staff forces with multicultural background. And I think the teaching inside a group becomes as important as the teaching outside of the group.
How is cross-culture intelligence and cross-culture understanding going to benefit our children, our youth, and our entrepreneurs?
You know what? I think it's major. I think it's major because you have such a wonderful country here. You have history, you have people, you have arts, you have culture, you have music, which I understand a little bit less, but it's a wonderful country. And then you have these people, and these people have to come together. And you are who you are. You cannot change it. There is not one format like a robot of a Nepalese person. This diversity is part of your identity, and by the way, it's part of your strengths. And we, Switzerland, we can be a role model in that element to you, because we profit from our diversity. You know, in '56 we had a lot of Hungarians coming to our country. They later almost dominated the tooth business, the dentist business, because we took a lot of people from medical universities. In '68 we had a lot of Czechs. I was talking about the Italians earlier. We had in the 90s a lot of people from former Yugoslavia countries. We had, by the way, a lot of people from Sri Lanka, the Tamils. We had a lot of Tamils. They all came to our restaurant business, to our hotel business. They went to the kitchen. Excellent cooks. This is our strength. You know, this gives us creativity.
We're in very interesting crossroad right now. Nepal is a country, and we've just had one disaster, earthquake. And then for us who are in the business, now for us means those who are in the tourism business, trekking business, and all these different tourism products. It is frustrating to see people coming from somewhere and then saying, oh, it will take 4 years to recuperate, and then it will take 7 years to go back to this and everything. You know, they can just say, and this has a great impact to the global market. So how do you think we ourselves, from the industry people, should prepare ourselves to communicate about our product as one voice, that we can recuperate faster than expected?
First of all, that tragic earthquake you had, as an impact it was to all of us, like Chile, the earthquake in Chile. We all will have to deal with this, and this is the ability of a nation and of an industry to deal with this, and to have leaders who say, okay, right on. Maybe not the next morning at 9 o'clock, but you know, there is suffering and there is the sorrow and the loss and everything. But at one stage they say, okay, let's come on, let's go forward. And that is an effort which must be done very, very concentrated. You've already said the one voice issue. If a professional or a journalist says to you, how is it in Nepal? Are the treks open? Are the hotels open? And then you provide the specific information. But in your attitude as a salesperson, you got to sell Nepal again. And how can you do this with new products and new services, not with old products and old services? To launch different business models, different products and services. In Nepal, tourism is such an important factor, even more important to the GDP as in Switzerland. Of course, it's a very political situation. It concerns everybody somehow. But it just means that even more people have to talk together, form one interest group, and say, right on, let's go out and sell Nepal. But you need new products for that. You need new ideas. You need creativity. You need young people, new audiences. You need new market. That's the moment, you know, when business is down, that's the moment to create new business. If business is up, nobody wants new ideas.
So we are talking about cultural intelligence, acceptance of different cultures. We need to work together. We need to be sensitive. We need to be emotionally connected with others' culture as well. So when you look at it, even from Switzerland's perspective, you were saying like you have almost like 25% of immigrants as citizens now that represent foreigners as citizens now. And when you look at this trend that is going on globally, do you see that there's going to be some level of convergence of culture in the near future?
If you watch the football business, then you would think no on a national basis. If you watch the football business on a team basis, absolutely, this is what's happening. You go to China and you see a football team with players from Africa and from Europe and from everywhere. I think the whole world is in a dramatic move with immigrants, with refugees. You see this at the shores of Australia, you see it at the Mexican-American border, you see it in South Africa where we have 4 million people from Zimbabwe. Everywhere is that clash and visualized best across the Mediterranean and the Balkan countries. That's going to influence our life substantially. It's going to influence our education system. It's going to influence the way we do business, the way we eat and entertain ourselves. Not everybody wants to endorse that change of life, and we have a lot of interest against whoever comes from underdeveloped country. You see the difficulties in Hungary, for example, and I don't even want to judge this because it's a difficult enough question. But we see a very strong resurrection of regional and local and national sensitivities. And
yeah, so definitely, like if we are looking into trading, or if you are talking about doing business with a larger audience globally, being a globalized citizen, cultural intelligence, definitely you will have to have it in you.
I would like to say that living in USA for 37 years, teaching cross-culture, it was a big challenge for me. What should I do? Should I be like them and go to my class and teach my South Asian culture? Or just be whoever I am? And then I realized one day, let me be who I am and what I am. Everybody appreciated me so much. And I learned the same thing from you, Mr. Chudi. You said twice, you are very proud to be a Swiss. This is a wonderful message for us.
For me personally, wonderful to be here. Obviously, time flies. Thank you so much. Namaste.
Today's discussion, I believe, provided you with ample information to satisfy your curiosity on cultural intelligence. We will be organizing Asia World Futuristic Talk Series regularly. You can follow us on Facebook at www.facebook.com/todaysyouth Asia. Thank you for watching us. Namaste.